This is a presentation of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
And hopes that were high in the heat of September can wilt and die in the chill of November. November can be cold and gray. November can be surly, with bitter rain upon the world and winter coming early.
This team means more to me than just another professional football team. And that's why I always did everything in my power to help make this organization and team the very best it could possibly be.
I want to say a big thanks to all those fans, because I, in my heart, believe you're the greatest fans. I'm going to tell you this, you're the greatest fans of all of pro sports. Hey, you made it what it was. You made that atmosphere what it was. You were the ones that prompted these players to play like they played.
You're a Redskins fan. You must hate the Dallas Cowboys. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
I love Redskin fans.
You sign on to the Washington Redskins, you sign on to hate the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, when you become a Dallas Cowboys, everybody come Redskin week talk about the difference between any other team and playing the Washington Redskins.
That's all they put on TV the whole week. The Cowboys, Redskins, and they were going out in the community talking.
Records didn't matter when this game happened. You can be 0-9 or 13-0. This is going to be probably one of the hardest games that you play in. And it was like an opportunity for me to play in those games. And I knew week in and week out that it was going to be a grudge match the whole game.
If you beat the Cowboys, you won the Super Bowl that year. If you don't make the postseason, you beat the Cowboys, it was an okay season for Redskins fans.
There are arguably other great rivalries on the football field, Michigan versus Ohio State, but Ann Arbor versus Columbus, Michigan versus Ohio? The longest running rivalry in pro football is Green Bay versus Chicago. Yes, there is something to that longevity, but does that matchup include city, culture, and ownership? When you say Cowboys versus Redskins, it is about two teams who between them have been to the Super Bowl 13 times. Two teams that are in the top 5 most valuable sports franchises in the world. Two teams that between them have an NFL record for single game attendance, the top 10 single season attendance totals, and the record for most consecutive sellouts. Two teams who have the highest television ratings in a league that dominates national television. And two teams with the most symbols of pomp and circumstance, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and the oldest and best fight song, Hail to the Redskins. Dallas and Washington are the nation's 4th and 6th biggest metropolitan areas, but they're number 1 and 2 in biggest growth per year. And it is safe to say that a Cowboys-Redskins game engages more fans between its cities than any other two teams.
You'll get it from the owner, you'll get it from the coaches, you'll get it from the fans, you'll get it from the milkman if he's delivering your milk, or the newspaper man that's dropping off the newspaper. Everybody talks about you got to understand the depth of beating the Washington Redskins if you play for the Dallas Cowboys.
The rivalry even goes back to when the Cowboys became a franchise in 1960.
The Cowboys wanted to have a team, and George Preston Marshall wouldn't let them get one. It had to be a unanimous decision by all the NFL owners. So the Cowboys owner at the time actually bought the rights to Hail to the Redskins and blackmailed the Redskins into allowing them to be a team.
So the Cowboys blackmailed the Redskins to let them get a franchise. The Redskins have 20 Hall of Famers, the Cowboys 16. The first class that entered the Hall of Fame was in 1963, and there were 2 Redskins inductees. Owner George Preston Marshall, he who held hostage the Cowboys getting a franchise, and Sammy Baugh, the legendary quarterback and punter, was also inducted.
Thank you, Harry. I feel as other men on the program who have been up here, I'm very honored to be inducted into Pro Football Hall of Fame. To me, the people who should be honored are the owners, Mr. George Preston Marshall, president of the Washington Redskins. I had the privilege of playing with him on his team for 16 years. I learned to respect Mr. Marshall. I've learned to love Mr. Marshall. And I've had the honor of playing with some great football players. I'll never forget those good lines up in front of me, those good pass receivers I had the opportunity to throw into. Thank you very much.
The Redskins had a 23-year head start, and at one point in the rivalry, had almost double the amount of Hall of Famers, especially when Joe Gibbs won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different starting quarterbacks, a record in and of itself. He was inducted in 1996.
I gotta tell you, no matter who you played for or who you coached for, I'm gonna tell you something. And some of the other players up here will all tell you this. When you walk out in that stadium at RFK, it's one of the greatest feelings in pro sports.
But there was no one on either side of the ball that stoked and milked the rivalry more than George Allen, who was elected to the Hall in 2002.
Hey, listen up. Gang, here's a ball for a guy that works real hard, and he's been in a lot of these games before, but it took a lot of cast offs, a bunch of Redskins, and a hell of a good group of guys to get him his second one, Coach. Go down!
My dad's first season with the Redskins was 71, and we believe Tex Schramm got the NFL to give our first 3 games were at St. Louis, at New York, and at Dallas. So they gave us the first 3 games on the road, all division games, and we went 3-0. Winning at the Cotton Bowl, that game 3. Charlie Haraway had a great run for about a 57-yard touchdown, and John Wilbur had a great game, and a lot of former Cowboys had good games in it. And winning that game was a significant game for the Redskins and this community, because when we came back to Washington that night on the flight, we almost couldn't land because the fans had rushed the tarmac at Dulles Airport, and the crowd that greeted us after being 3-0 and winning that game of 5,000 people, I think that ignited this market to realizing a successful Redskin football team really brings this community together.
And keep coming on every play and we'll win. Just remember this, 40 men together can't lose.
Dad was superstitious, and one time he noticed what I was wearing, and he said, "I thought you wore white when we won that game, that previous game." And I said, "Oh, I might have. You know, I didn't think of it that way. I wasn't that superstitious as a kid. I am now because I learned that from Dad." He wanted me to wear the winning outfit. It didn't matter if it was cold, hot, doesn't matter. We don't change a winning routine in anything we do, and my mom knew that as well. He'd have to have the rice pudding after the game. He had to have his peanut butter and jelly on Thursday because that was the winning combination.
Great win. We beat them out their own game. You out hit them. Now we bring those damn Cowboys next.
The Cowboys had fallen on hard times in the 80s after losing the NFC Championship game to the 49ers in a game made famous for the catch. They were sold to Jerry Jones in 1989, and his first season was disastrous, finishing with a 1-15 record.
No matter what, the Washington Redskins, the years that they won a Super Bowl, we can come in and beat them. We won in 15, that was the only team we won.
Dallas, the 1 year with Troy Aikman and Emmett and all those guys when they assembled that team, you remember that 1 year, their one win was against us.
With all of our excitement and enthusiasm, we went out that first year and just won one football game in 1989. But things soon changed. They changed with really great ability and great passion.
But as general manager, he drafted and traded for 5 future Hall of Famers, cutting into the Redskins' Hall of Fame lead.
Michael Irvin taught me the art of smiling in the face of adversity. The rougher it was, the louder he laughed. He was a football player.
You see, I knew Jerry had put all he had into purchasing the Cowboys, and that's the way I see Jerry. He's a man that's willing to give all he has, and all he wants is to bring the Cowboy family Super Bowls.
Emmitt Smith, if I've ever seen a man of goals that followed him, was Emmitt Smith.
So Jerry, thank you for believing in me as a football player and knowing that I can get the job done.
Emmitt Smith is the all-time leading rusher, and the great thing about that, his rookie year, he said to me he was going to become the all-time leading rusher.
Jerry Jones taught me so much about family, taught me so much about business, taught me a lot about life.
Jerry's done so many great things. My daughter, Brianna, she had leukemia, and Jerry opened up Cowboy Stadium to do the biggest bone marrow drive in the history to try to help me save my daughter's life. Jerry, when I got traded to the Cowboys, the first handshake I received with Jerry Jones, you know, I got off the plane, was 8 cameras looking, I couldn't see nothing, and there's a hand stick off. Hi, I'm Jerry Jones of the Dallas, owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to Dallas.
You know, when you are amongst so many people, there's so many voices out there, and you make a big play, and you're sitting there on the sideline, and you can sort of hear their heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. It gets louder and louder and louder. And when you can figure out how to put that defibrillator on yourself and shock somebody in their chest and make the whole heartbeat go quiet, that's when you feel like you've done something important and you made a big play for your team.
But even as the Cowboys began to win more games on the field and in the rivalry and creep up on the Hall of Famer ladder, there was one Redskin to date they could not catch. Redskin wide receiver Art Monk holds the record for the longest ovation in the history of the Hall of Fame, over 5 minutes. Coming full circle in this Hall of Fame Redskins-Cowboys rivalry, 54 years after the Redskins had their owner in the Hall of Fame, here comes a man that outside of George Allen still uses the rivalry to his full advantage.
Yo, Jerry and the coaches, going back all the way to the Landry days, going back to Jerry telling us about the owners, how maybe they would bicker back and forth, or they would, have some type of bet or something, or the players going back and forth. Even when you walk through the locker room all the way down through the tunnel, they'll do little things where they would let the cheerleaders walk by you to try to distract you. Or the stadium's dripping all this nasty water and you got to go through this muggy hole, this tunnel that you're going through, and you hear all the fans outside, throwing batteries and yelling at you and telling you what type of team you are.
Yeah, it was a crummy stadium. Man, we had crud hanging off of it. And the fans are right on top of everybody. But I'm going to tell you this, when people came in there, it was hard to beat us.
And then you finally get out there and you see your opponent on the other end of the sideline, and they have just as much tenacity, just as much hate for you on the other side of that sideline. And it's just, you feel and you know the reason why you put those pads on. And that's to go to battle with your team.
Looking back on the memory, our lives really are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I've had to have missed the dance. That's football. Inspiration, dreams. We got here with a love of football and love of family.
This rivalry is so much more than the game on the field. That is, only the product of a deep passion and envy between fans, cities, organizations, owners, and the penultimate Hall of Famers. It is not about wins and losses. It is about a cultural pride that both teams represent that has captured the heart of the nation who only wishes that they had a rivalry with so much meaning.
I just saw a guy coming here, had a sticker, 2 stickers on a van, Cowboy stickers. Normally I say something to him.
It's alive. You know, when we hired Mike Shanahan to come here, or hired Coach Gruden to come here, we explained to them, you know, this, just so you know, we want to win. Understand, don't you ever think, before we play a Dallas game and the press says, how are you going to go, to say this is another game. The fans do not want to hear that. This is a Dallas game.
Everyone kind of declared Dallas America's team, and frankly, I take offense to that.
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. The prairie sky is wide and high, deep in the heart of Texas.
It is my pleasure to introduce Coach Tom Landry.
It makes it a little bit special today to have Roger Staubach, you know, and present me for induction into the Hall of Fame. I could talk for hours about Roger Staubach. The odds were against him from the outset. The Cowboys drafted Roger as a future choice in the 10th round in 1964 when he still had a year in the Naval Academy and 4 years of active duty ahead of him. I never thought we'd ever see this Heisman Trophy winner in a Cowboys uniform.
Of course, I went on to be drafted by the Dallas Cowboys and learned how to be a professional quarterback, not only as a runner, but also as a passer.
The rabbits rush around the brush, deep in the heart of Texas. The Cowboys cry, yippee-yi, deep in the heart of Texas. The doggies ball.
Coach Landry made a great comment in that meeting. He stood up and he said this. He said, I really didn't think it was very important for me to get in the Hall of Fame, but I did think it was important for all my players.
Sometimes when we played well during the course of a long season, Joe Gibbs would give us off Monday and Tuesday. Dallas week, we didn't get a Monday off.
No matter what, Washington can be one of the worst teams, and they will still always either beat us or give us those tough tank games. That's what makes that rivalry so great.
I think this team can feel it, feel the intensity, the importance of it.
You know, you don't go in the locker room and play the music anymore. It's sheer quietness, to where you hear all the guys being very, very focused on what's the task at hand.
I mean, I grew up watching Westerns and Cowboys versus Redskins, and then got a chance to play for the Dallas Cowboys and see that rivalry up close and taste it.
The halls of Congress understand that it's Redskins Cowboys week, and they have to pick a side. And it doesn't matter if you're a senator from Idaho, you got to pick a side on the Redskin Cowboys. Redskin Cowboy week is special in the nation's capital,